Somebody telling me, yes, it is very clear, yes. However, I must acknowledge that there are some of you who are working really hard and they are going an extra mile, yeah, to ensure that they don't stop at what I'm giving in class, right? They find several examples and they try to tackle them, and they are not balancing, and therefore they must take a screenshot and send it to me to confirm or to look at it and see what could be wrong. I appreciate that. I appreciate that. Remember what I told you the first time that we met. You know, the difference between a person who will get a D in this unit and a person who will get an A is in their ability to do extra or to go an extra mile and work out different examples, right? Because the more you work them out, the more you become confident. It is one thing to know, an asset is supposed to be debited when there's an increase, and credited when there is a decrease. It is something else when you get a question and you have all those items and now you must decide what to do with each and every one of those items. And therefore, your efforts are much appreciated. Your efforts are much appreciated. Good. The other thing that I need to mention was on the issue of the cat. The issue of the cat. And I am cognizant of the fact that we did a cut last week, yeah, on Monday. And I am very sure that most of you didn't do it well. And even for those people who did it well, you took a lot of time. That question at the end of the semester, and the end of the semester is not very far, a few weeks from now, maybe 2 months from now, right? Maybe 2 months from now. And a question like the one that I sent is usually allocated at most 30 minutes. At most 30 minutes. Because you can imagine a situation where you have four of those questions and you've been given 2 hours, right? And therefore, it is allocated at most 30 minutes. And therefore, you should be able to complete that question within that time frame. And the other issue that I also need to note there is that, remember, this is a system generated mode of studying, right? And therefore, it is not like we have the ability to extend that. I tell you 5 more minutes, I add on to the time that I had allocated you, right? And therefore, if it tells you that it's supposed to take 30 minutes, time yourself so that before those 30 minutes are over, you will have taken a photo and submitted that photo. Otherwise, the system locks you out. And in the normal scenario, when the system locks you out, it means that you'll get a zero. It means that you'll get a zero for that unit or for that cut. However, I also know that we faced some challenges last week, especially because of those people who did not know how to attach. The given clear instructions that you can either write your answer on the space provided. Of course, I know it was difficult because this is accounting, right? If there was a theoretical question, it would have been easier to record your answer or to type your answer there. But because it is a calculation question and you don't want to spend a lot of time trying to draw different lines, it would have been more prudent for you to get a piece of paper or a book, write your answer down there, right? And then at the end of it, once you're through, you take a good photo, save it. If you are using a phone, save it, give it a name, save it in your phone, be it in your WhatsApp or wherever you save them. So that once you save and you logging into you are logging into the portal, then you are able to attach it. If there are two, you will attach one photo. Once that is, you have attached that one, save, then you attach another one and save. I want to hope that we have gone out of our way to ensure that we have familiarized ourselves with that process of attaching. If you do not know, kindly ask your colleagues. I am very sure there are so many people who know, because I saw many people were able to attach their work, right? And therefore, if it is you're not familiar with it, kindly do it. Kindly do it. Talk to your colleagues and let them share with you what you need to do for you to be able to attach a photo or a PDF or whatever format that you may have. Now, because of all those challenges, we decided that we are going to do away with the cut that we did, right? We are going to do away with that cut that we did last week. And instead, I am going to generate a new cut, not necessarily exactly the same cut that we did. I will generate a new cut, right? And which we will do next week, which we will tackle next week. So next week, we will do two things. One, we will come and learn probably for 2 hours, and then we do that cut for the remaining 1 hour. We come and learn for 2 hours, and then we do the cut for the remaining 1 hour, which means there will be no extension of time. And in accounting, if you find that the time is gone and you're not able to complete, the best thing, instead of scoring a 0, the best thing is to take photo of what you've done and post it first, right? In case you are able to complete again within before time, then you can retake the photo and post. But ensure that before time, 5 minutes before time, that you've posted your answer. I hope that is clear. Am I clear? Am I clear? You need to respond to me. You need to respond to me. Good. Good. Now, I know we have been looking at different things. Ledgers, we have prepared the trial balance, right? We have prepared the no, which previous cards? These are previous cards, the answers are already attached, my friend. Already attached. It's only the last card that you did last week that I was not able to, I have not sent the answers because it is still pending. Otherwise, all the other assignment and the cards, the answers are already attached or they are in the notes. That can confirm to me that you people never go through the notes and never go through the attachments that have been attached in the portal. Too unfortunate. Too unfortunate. Ensure that you interact with the portal. You should be able to see that I've attached some answers. Good. Now, I've seen we've been looking at different issues in accounting. Remember, we looked at ledgers, we have looked at generated the trial balance, we have used the trial balance to prepare trading profit and loss account, we have used the trial balance to prepare the balance sheet, right? We have done all those things, eh? We have done all those things. From there, I know we are supposed to look at now different items that affects the trial balance and the balance sheet, and how to deal with them. How do we deal with all these items that affect the trial balance, that affect the trading profit and loss account and the balance sheet? How do we deal with them? We'll be looking at that later. For now, I want to take us a little bit back. Huh? I want to take us a little bit back so that we can look at what we call journalizing or journals. We look at what we call journals. And as we look at the journals, we'll also look at what we call cash book, because a cash book is a form of a journal. A cash book is a form of a journal, or an example of a journal. Now, I want to be very fast, right? And therefore, it is important that with you, you have a place to write, you have a pen, you have a calculator, you have all those things. Because when we talk about journals, it means that we must go back to ledgers. And we have already taught ledgers, and therefore I expect you to be very, very fast when it comes to ledgers. So allow me to share a document. Allow me to share a document at this moment that I think is important for us to be able to see even as we engage. It's very, very important. Very, very important. Very, very important. Very, very, very important. Can confirm whether we are able to see it from that side. Just need one confirmation that we are able to see it from that side. Be very, very, very grateful for that. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Have I seen what you've said? Good people. Have you shared your? Have you told me you're able to see this? Yes, 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 yes. Thank you. Thank you, thank you. Good. Now, a journal is a way of recording. Journalizing is a way of recording the transactions, not in ledgers, but in what we call journal format, or in what we call a book. So a journal is a book. A journal is a book, right? And we are able to summarize those transactions in one document or in one book, right? All the ledgers. And usually in the normal accounting scenario, this is done before we construct ledgers. It is usually done before we construct ledgers. And therefore, a journal can be called a chronological record of business transactions. It can be called a chronological record or day-to-day records of business transactions. And what we need to understand is that it is important. Why journalizing is important is that we are able to have more information in terms of description of the transaction that has taken place. You realize that in ledgers, what we do, we just record the date and we record the account that is affected, and then we record the amount. And of course, whether it is a debit or a credit. Now, in a journal, we are able to get more information because every transaction must be explained. Every transaction must be explained. And the explanation is in form of a brief or a short description. That explanation must be in form of a brief description of what has taken place. Of what has taken place. I don't know who is this who is joking around with us. Can you kindly stop that habit? Interfering with my presentation. Number two reason or advantage of drawing up journal is because of the permanent nature of journals. right? Because remember, we have said journal is a book, right? And therefore, it is easy when we record transaction on a day-to-day basis, right? Because if we've taken a book for 1 year, we'll know that all the transactions that we have recorded are in this book. Once the book is filled up, then we can store that book. And therefore, there is what we call permanency of records. And number three is we are able to prevent errors in that in case of anything, we can always refer back to a specific time, specific year, and a specific date to sort out the errors that may have occurred. I hope that is clear. The other thing that I want to talk about is the categories of journals. Of course, these are not the only reasons. They are not the only advantages that we have. So in case you find a question, don't just give 3 if a question is worth 10 marks. You know, sometimes we leave some of the things to you to be able to do some research and find out. For example, in this case, it is important for you to do some research, more research, and find out more advantages of maintaining journal or journalizing your entries. We have two categories of journal. One is what we call general journal, and the other one is what we call special journal. Now, a general journal is also what we call journal proper. A general journal can also be called a journal proper, and it's a basic journal where we record basic transactions, or where we record all the financial transactions that happen in a business. That type of journal is a journal proper, or it's also called general journal, a journal proper, or a general journal. Number two is what we have called special journals. And this will happen when we have a large number of transactions of the same type, a large number of transactions of the same type. And for example, we are dealing with millions of transactions or thousands of transactions. We would want to know what is it, for example, that we sold this day. And therefore, we might have what we call a journal to record all the sales and only the sales, right? We might have another journal to record all the purchases, right? If there are so many. We may also have another journal to record, for example, cash. Now, when we talk about it that way, in such a manner, then we call it a special journal. We call it a special journal. I hope that is clear. Very, very clear. Now, how do we record transactions in a journal? How do we record transactions in a journal? Now, a journal will have several columns, right? And one will have what we call a date column, where we record the date when that transaction happened, right? Dates in accounting are always very important. Dates in accounting are very important. Therefore, we'll have a date column, and then we'll also have what we call accounts, details or description or explanation column, right? Account details or explanation. Then we also have what we call reference column. We have reference column. We have reference column. Sorry, I think I close this without. I hope that is clear. That is clear now. We have what we call reference column, and then we have two other columns, one for debit and the other one for credit. And therefore, let me try and share this other one that I wanted to share, so that you're able to follow. You are my people, my students. My students. Can you share? What do you want to share? I want to share this document. Now, again, I hope you can see. Yeah, you can see this. I hope you can see this. I hope you can see this. I hope you can see this. And therefore, we have said that a journal will have a date column, right? Where we record the date. For example, today is 31st, 08, 2020, right? We have that column that is there. Then next, we have where we have an account description, right? We have account description. And for example, here, we may have, let's say, 2 accounts. Credit capital. We may simply have capital. Let me just put it there. Capital and the bank, right? We have 2 accounts that, and I'm not saying these are the accounts that are there. It depends with the transaction. Remember, we say that transaction must affect more than 1 account. So depending with the transaction, that is what we'll be able to, out of every transaction, you should be able to generate the accounts to be affected, and therefore accounts to be debited and account to be credited. This one called reference, you can leave it for now. It used to be applied in accounting a long time ago. I don't think it is still in application today. And then you must, of course, know the account to be debited, for example, and account to be credited. For example, I can have, where we have Kimani started his business with 20,000 in the bank. Kimani started with his business with shillings 20,000 in the bank, and therefore here we know that the account to be affected is capital, and the other account to be affected is bank. What account do we credit? Capital. What account do we debit? Bank. So if it is that transaction that I've given there, and you can write it down that Kamau started his business with 20,000 in the bank. And therefore, these are the accounts that are supposed to be debit. And therefore, I expect here, you will say debit, capital, and credit. Credit what? Bank. And many a times, it will take various forms. It can be that way, right? It can be that way. But just when it comes to crediting, here, you will have, is it debit capital? It's credit capital. Credit capital and debit what? Debit bank, where you start a business. Kimani started a business with 20,000 cash. So the bank is debit, the capital is credited with the 20,000, and the bank is debited with 20,000, right? Once that is done, you are supposed to give a brief description or explanation, right? You're supposed to give a very brief explanation, and that explanation will come from the information that has been provided. And therefore, what has happened in this case? How do you explain this? How do you explain that? How do you explain that transaction? How do you explain that transaction? Briefly, without using many words. How do you explain it briefly without using many words? How do you explain it briefly without using many words? Therefore, I can say here to record starting of business, right? Record starting of business with capital of 20,000. Now, again, if you look at it, It's quite long, right? That is what quite long. It is quite long. Quite long. If you look at it, it's quite long. It's quite long. A minute. Just excuse me. A minute. Good people. I'll need a break of 5 minutes. A break of 5 minutes. Meanwhile, try to shorten this because we want to record starting of a business with a capital of 20,000. Try to minimize this and send the answer via the chat forum there, right? Send it via chat. I will sample some of them as we continue. But meanwhile, I take a break of 5 minutes. A break of 5 minutes. Good. So let us sample. Let us sample. Being what? Starting capital of 20,000. How many people have responded? Where are we? Where did we begin? Where did we begin? Let us see how many people have responded and in what way. Capital of 20,000. Initial capital to business. Started business with capital 20,000. Record started business with capital 20,000. That is okay with me. Record business capital of 20,000. Continue. That is also okay. Record starting capital 20,000. Record of starting business with capital 20,000. Starting business commencement 20,000. Business start at 20. Hey, no, stop using these arts. The one that you using the symbol. No, you can't just say 20,000. We say, remember what we have said, that the advantage of a journal is that it gives us slightly more information. Now, we do not shorten that information for the sake of shortening it, right? We shorten it so that we are brief and to the point. And therefore, anyone looking at the journal should be able to know exactly what you are recording. A record to start business with a capital of 20,000 by check. That's a long one. That's a long one. Alternatively, I can say, no, I think that is okay now. We can focus here. Alternatively, I can also put it here. In other places, you will find it being initial capital. Being initial capital. Being initial capital. After we have done that, after we have done this, we are supposed to close off this account here. And therefore, I will have to draw a line there and close it off that way, right? I'll have to draw a line there, close it off. What I've forgotten to say is that here you only give one description, so we can do away with this. Let me do away with this. When I told it is being initial capital, you will understand that it is in the bank, so it came from the bank and capital there, and it was the capital that we started with. What I had forgotten to say is that we usually put that into brackets, right? That explanation must be put into brackets the way I have done here. It must be put into the brackets the way I have done there. I started business with 20,000. That is still okay. So most important is, again, we have talked about that line. You must be able to close that transaction. That means that is a complete transaction, right? And then you go to the next transaction. Probably this will happen on 01st September 2020, right? Or maybe it has still happened today, that first 08 2020. And the next one, probably I will say purchased goods worth 5,000, purchased goods worth 5,000 and paid via check. You can write that down. Purchased goods worth 5,000, purchased goods worth 5,000 and paid via check. Purchased goods worth 5,000 and paid via check. So what accounts will be affected here? What accounts will be affected? What accounts will be affected? Very fast, very fast. Purchased goods worth 5,000 and paid via check. What accounts will be affected? No, you don't have to put in the amount there. The amount is already on those columns. Good, purchases and bank. And therefore, I'll expect you there to come and write the accounts first, purchases, right? And bank account, right? Purchases account and the bank account. So what account will be debited, what account will be credited? Remember these things, we've already done them. I just want to show you how to record it. Otherwise, the identifying of the accounts from the transaction, you should be very conversant with it. So purchases account, what do we do with it? Do we debit, do we credit? Yes, we debit 5,000 and the bank we credit 5,000. Somebody to give us a narration. Somebody to give us a narration. What narration will you put there? What narration will you put there? Someone to give us a narration. What narration do we put there? I want it to be brief. What narration do we put there? What description will we put here? Good. Now you're getting the drill. Being record of purchases. And then you close the bracket, right? Goods paid via check. No. Being record of purchases is more convenient. And then we close off that transaction because it is a full transaction. It's complete. It is complete. It is complete. Good. Write this other transaction. Write this other transaction. Sold goods. Sold goods worth 4,000. Sold goods worth 4,000. Sold goods worth 4,000 to Kimani. Sold goods worth 4,000 to Kimani. Sold goods worth 4,000 to Kimani. Kimani paid cash 1,000. Kimani paid cash 1,000, and the rest was to be paid later. Kimani paid cash 1,000, and the rest was to be paid later. Purchases account to bank, no. Doing record of purchases. No, we can still do it here. We were asking about the credit and debit. We can still do it here, though it is not compulsory. That debit there and the credit here, they are not very compulsory. I just want to highlight so that when you find them in the notes, you will not be confused. Those one can be left there as long as you've indicated the accounts to debit and the account to credit on this other side. That will be okay. It will be okay. Good. So in that transaction that we have said, sold goods worth 4,000 to Kimani. Kimani paid 1,000 in cash, and the rest was to be paid later. What accounts will be affected? We've gone through these things so much. Sales, Kimani, and the cash. So here we can record the other this transaction this way. Is 2020. So we have sales, right? Account. We have Kimani account, and we have cash account, right? What account will be debited? What account will be credited? What account will be debited? What accounts will be credited? What accounts will be debited and what accounts will be credited? Very fast, very fast. I want us to do this very, very fast. Do this very, very fast. I want us to do this very, very fast. Sales will be credited, indeed. So what amount do we credit? Credit sales, debit Kimani, debit cash. Lena Musili. You're correct. So in this case, we'll debit sales, we'll credit sales with what amount? 4,000. Then we debit Kimani with a balance of 3,000, right? And cash 1,000, right? Right? Then we give an explanation. So what explanation will you give here? Brief explanation. Someone is raising their hands. Can you put your whatever there? I'll be able to see it. Being record of sales. I think that will do. Being record of sales. Remember in this case, you don't have to go into explaining that some of it was in cash and the other one was in credit, because that will be a too long statement, right? It will be too long, right? And therefore, when you say being a record of sales, everybody now is able to see that a part of it was paid in cash and the other one was paid to be paid later. And then, of course, we have said that after you have done that, it will always be important for you to close off that transaction. Now, if you look, the debit and the credits will always be equal: 4,000, 4,000, 5,000, 5,000, 20,000, 20,000. And therefore, the double entry rule still remains. Double entry rule still remains. The double entry rule still remains. I want to hope that that is clear before I revert to this other and ask you whether you're seeing this a description of what I've just said. Description of what I've just said. Description of what I've just said. It is not different. It is not different. It's just an explanation again of what you have said. Now, there's there's some transaction that we had done some times back, and which I didn't want to dwell so much on. But you can do this for confirmation. You can do this for confirmation. We can do this for confirmation. I want to refer you back, but this information is here. This information is here. This information is here. Now, you remember there's an illustration that I had given, right? I think the best thing was to remove this so that you come up with your own. How long should this take? 10, 20 minutes? I want you to draw this. I want you to draw a illustration. See the following information. Following information, a minute. Now I said you leave alone the ref column. Yeah, you used to use it a long time ago. It's no longer used now. Now, can we do this example in our books? Can we do this example in your book? I'm giving you 5 minutes. I want to see the totals at the bottom. I want to see those totals at the bottom there. I hope you are able to see this. I am sharing the question. Are you able to see what I'm sharing? Somebody is saying no. You're not able to see what I'm sharing. And the others have already completed. Good people, I said that you do this, I said that you do this. I said that you do this. You prepare a journal, the one that you've been doing using these transactions. Prepare a journal using these transactions, and then because I wanted to check whether you are doing the right thing, I want you to get me your total here at the bottom, right? I want you to get me those totals there at the bottom. Is it clear? I want you to get me this total after you have constructed your journal. Get me these totals there at the bottom. We usually don't put the totals, but because I want to check, I want you to be able to get me these totals at the bottom there. I hope that is clear for all. I hope that is clear. Is it? We are preparing what? Journals. Good. Let me share. Let me share the question. Prepare the journals, and because I want to know whether you've done the correct thing, I want a summation at the bottom there of debits and the total credits. I hope that is clear. Meanwhile, let me reshare the question. That is the question there. Good. I guess you're correct. The total there should be 104,600. You're correct. The totals should be 104,600. The most important thing is for you to be able to get that format that we have said, right? Both sides 104,600. Is there any question on this? Any question on journals? No, you don't have to write contra entry in this case. No, these journals give us a brief explanation or description. For example, being cash transfer to bank or being bank transfer to cash. Here you don't write contra. I hope this is clear. Any question? Any question on this? Yes, you can ignore the reference column. You can ignore that column. It's not very important at this level. Yeah, if you don't give correct description, we'll punish you. If you don't give correct description, we will punish you. We'll penalize you. You will not earn full marks. Could we just close the single line or double line? At the bottom, what do you mean that in normal situation, you don't record, or you're talking about closing? No, it's a single line, single line, single line. Single line. No, we cannot, Otieno, we cannot possibly exhaust all the transactions. We cannot. We just have to figure out what happened. Purchase of a motor vehicle, sale of goods, sale of a motor vehicle. We just have to figure out the best description. We don't have to know the method because there are so many. I cannot give you a description from day one to the last. What have you done? No, we don't sum. We don't sum at the bottom, Frank. I said that I wanted you to sum so that I can know whether you've done the correct thing. In this case, we don't sum. We don't sum. We don't sum. For example, in day one, started business with 50,000 in bank. We've already given a description of that in the previous example. Date 2, June 2nd, bought June 2nd. June 2nd, bought motor vehicle, van, paying by check. This is a purchase of motor vehicle. June the 5th, bought fixtures, 4,000 on credit from purchase of fixtures on credit. That is the description. June 8th, bought a van on credit from motor cars. Purchase of a van on credit, June 12. No, we don't have to give these things. These are self-explanatory. It is a description of date 19 and 25. Date 19 says paid motor cars by check. Payment by check. Payment by check. 25th, paid 8,000 of cash in hand into the bank account. This being cash transferred into the bank account, being cash transferred into the bank account, or being cash banked, being cash banked. These things are not too difficult. They are not too difficult for us. Simple. You just have to explain it in the layman language and ensure that you are as brief as possible. Yeah, brief as possible. As brief as possible. Not that you cannot give a long one, but it will waste a lot of your time trying to give a full description of it. It should be brief and to the point. Good. Having said that, having done that, can we proceed and look at the cash book? Can we proceed now and look at the cash book? Can we proceed and look at the cash book? Good. Now, one thing that you need to remember, is that we have said, as I was explaining, that we have two types of journals. One is what we call journal proper or general journal, and two is what we call special journal. And we said that in special journal, we record, when we use it when there is a huge, or where there are huge transactions of the same kind. And we said a good example of it is a what? Cash journal, or we can also call it cash book. Now, a cash book is simply a book. It is simply a book where we record all the transactions, or where we record all the cash transactions, all the transactions that have been dealt with in cash. So a cash book is a book, accounting book for recording all the cash transactions. Remember, it is in nature of many businessmen to sell their wares and receive payment in cash. Yeah, it is in the nature of many businesses to do that. Rarely will you find businesses selling on credit. Rarely will you find businesses selling on credit. Not that they cannot sell on credit, but for obvious reasons, many people prefer what? Many people prefer to sell in cash. Now, we have a sample here of a cash book. Simply, we deal with the two types of cash book. One is what we call two-column cash book, two-column cash book. And number two is what we call three-column cash book, two-column cash book, and three-column cash book. Now, this is the way a cash book will look like. It is divided into two sections. That is this other section, and from here, this other side, right? One is a debit, and this other side is a what? Is a credit, right? A debit and a credit. It is divided into two, debit side and credit side. Then on each and every side, we'll have similar details. And one of the important things to capture is the date of the transaction. The date of the transaction, very important. And then we'll have a section for the details of that transaction. We have a section for the details of that transaction. And then we have two other major columns. One is for cash. That is the amount of money that was received. They are the cash. the currency, notes and coins that were received, they will be recorded under the cash column. And then we have the bank. These are the checks that we receive, any amount that was paid to us via the bank or through the bank will be recorded there. Remember, this debit side is for receipts. It is for the amount of money that we have received, either in cash or by check. Good. On the other side, we have similar details to the ones that are on the debit side. This other side is called the credit side. And it is the side that we use to record all the payments that we have made either in cash or through the bank. All the payments that we have made either in cash or through the bank. Either in cash or through the bank. Is that clear? Is it clear? Is that explanation clear? Need to know. Very clear, very clear, very clear, very clear. Ah, good, good. That's why I like this class. I like this class. That's why I like this class. What labels? What labels? Kidaha. What labels are you talking about? What labels are you talking about? Now, for a 2-column cash book, this is the way it is. This is the way it is. It will not change. Even these 2 lines should be there. It will not change. It will not change. For a 2-column cash book, which labels on top? Very clear. Good. Now, if that is clear, we look at this example here. I want us to look at this example. And I think the first thing is for you to write it. Kindly copy this example. I want to give you sufficient time to copy this example. The question is, the illustration is write up a 2-column cash book. Write up a 2-column cash book from the following details and the balance of as of the end of the month. It's a 2-column cash book and we balance it off. 2-column cash book and we balance it off. It's at the end of the month. 2-column cash book, balance it off as at the end of the month. Trying to make it more visible, right? Trying to make this more visible. Good. It will fit in there. So can we write that illustration very fast? The receipt is what business has. The receipt is what business has sold because they have received money, right? When you sell, you receive money. It is that money that you are recording here as a debit, right? When you sell, you receive money. And that is the money that you're recording here. When you purchase, you have used money. And that is the money you record on the credit side. Not necessarily, Amos. Here we are dealing with cash only. We are dealing with cash only. Here we deal with cash only. Either the amount that we have paid in cash and the bank, or the amount that we have received in cash or bank. Can we write that example very fast? Write that example very fast. Oh, seems like most of us are done with copying, right? And therefore here, I'm going to show you the first few transactions. What is Margaret? Who is Agri? You giving us what? What is 104,600? So here I'm going to show you the first transaction or the first few, and then I'll expect you to complete the rest of them. Now, if you look at this, the first transaction here, it reads on May 1st, started business with capital in cash, 1,000. Started business with capital in cash, 1,000. Now, one thing that you need to realize is that what we are drawing here are not the normal ledgers. What we are drawing here is a special journal. And this journal, we are calling it cash. And therefore, it means that only cash transactions will be recorded in this case. And therefore, when we start a business with the capital of 1,000, we come on this other side, right? We'll come here, and on the debit side, talk about sales. No, not sales. Date was May 1st. What did we record? It is capital. And what was the amount? 1,000. Was it cash or was it in the bank? It was cash. And therefore, we recorded under the cash. I want to hope that this is clear. I don't want to be doing the wrong thing. So we have said we have started a business with 1,000. And therefore, we'll come there first, right? And then the transaction is regarding the capital, and the amount to be recorded there is 1,000. And we are through with that transaction. We are through with that transaction. We will not record any other thing for the transaction that happened on first, right? We will not record any other transaction for that transaction that happened on first. Because what concerns us is how was the cash affected. Here we have a receipt of cash, 1,000. June or May 3rd, what was the transaction? May 3rd. The transaction was May 2nd. Paid rent by cash. We have paid rent by cash. Paid rent by cash. And therefore, that is a payment. It is not a receipt. And because it is a payment, then, because it is a payment,